The NFL has officially wrapped up the preseason, and with that, Spencer Rattler, the 5th round pick for the New Orleans Saints, officially crushed it. Now, the Saints didn't get the win, they didn't go undefeated in the preseason, but the game that Spencer Rattler just had injected hope and excitement into the Saints fan base, which, I mean, I would not have guessed the Saints fans would have had hope or excitement back in March. But not everyone was as excited as the fans, because Derek Carr on the sideline looked a little concerned next to the future of the Saints franchise, Spencer Rattler, and this isn't the first time he did this against the Cardinals preseason week 1. Does Derek Carr know his time is ticking? Who won the Saints backup quarterback job, and who's going to be their starting right tackle? Plus my winners and losers from today's game and my roster predictions. Let's start off with the biggest winner out of all the winners around the preseason, and that is Spencer Rattler. Not only did he have a good game versus the Tennessee Titans, which was very much needed, but he may have won the number 2 quarterback job behind Derek Carr, which is a big step in the right step in his development and progress to becoming the Saints franchise quarterback and the eventual starter within the next few seasons. Spencer Rattler went 7 of 13, 105 yards, and threw an absolute dime of a touchdown, while also running for 13 yards on 2 carries. Now, he went 7 of 13, but I can comfortably say that almost all of his incompletions, if not all of them, were dropped passes, and they weren't his fault. I don't think there was a single bad pass from Spencer Rattler in this game, other than a pass interference call where he had a low ball to A.T. Perry, and it didn't even matter anyway. Spencer Rattler was nearly perfect on the day. And someone had a good point on Twitter saying if Spencer Rattler was a 1st round pick, more people would be excited about his preseason, and on top of that, I think he'd be maybe considered to be the starter if he was a 1st round pick. The dude has been balling out. Yeah, he had a good first preseason game. Second preseason game was a little rough, but what story doesn't have a rough patch in there? What story doesn't face adversity? Had a rough game versus the 49ers, came back, and pretty much won the backup quarterback job. With Rattler being our biggest winner, that makes Jake Haener our biggest loser. Jake Haener did not look good. You can say that he'll be inactive on game days. He went 8 of 17, threw 87 yards, and led 0 touchdown drives, while at the same time having a huge fumble. Jake Haener did not look good out there. He was taking checkdowns, didn't really do anything impressive in my opinion. His best throw of the whole preseason came against the Cardinals to A.T. Perry, but Jake Haener to me did not really do anything to help his case to win the job. Now I will say this, Jake Haener did have a nice touchdown pass and did make a few nice plays here and there, but it wasn't consistent. Spencer Rattler was making plays consistently. Jake Haener made 2-3 decent plays, but they're all spread out. Touchdown passes called out, had a nice play to A.T. Perry that was ruled out of bounds. He just simply didn't do enough to win the job. And when you look at the preseason numbers, it's pretty obvious that Spencer Rattler had the better preseason and that he deserves to be the 2nd quarterback. Rattler led 13 drives, had 4 touchdown scoring drives, and had 3 field goal drives, with one of those field goal drives being a game winner. He went 20 of 38, 202 yards, and threw a touchdown with 1 fumble, had 7 carries and 28 rushing yards with a rushing touchdown. Jake Haener had 12 drives. Of those 12 drives, 3 of them resulted in points, all of them in field goals. One of them, he didn't even go downfield. The defense forced a fumble today, and they got the ball in the red zone, which resulted in a field goal. Haener went 24 of 43, 270 yards, had a fumble, had 3 carries for 11 rushing yards in the whole preseason. Pretty obvious that Spencer Rattler was much better. And our next loser is Derek Carr, because now anytime he performs poorly, throws a pick, 3 and out, literally anything negative, guess what the fans are going to be chanting and wanting and talking about? When will Spencer Rattler get in the game? That makes Derek Carr a loser by default because of how good Spencer Rattler looked today, just like how last week Derek Carr was a winner by default because Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler looked bad. Also, Spencer Rattler is also a loser on this list, not because he played bad, but because he was literally throwing to Walmart employees at the wide receiver position. Nearly every single drive he led, there was 1 or 2 drops. He had no help out there. The Saints wide receiver depth outside of Olave and Shaheed is really scary. Our next winner is the Saints running back room. You had Jacob Kabadi, played well. Jordan Mims looked the best he's looked all preseason, and James Robinson looked really good. All of these running backs had themselves a highlight moment or a big play during the day, which compared to last week was different. It seemed like last week the scheme was making them look good. Today the running backs themselves looked good. And that means that Kendre Miller is our next loser. The running back room looks good, while Kendre Miller is out, injured, has done nothing all of training camp. No updates, cannot stay healthy, gets called up by Dennis Allen twice. Kendre Miller is our next loser, while the running back room continues to be winners and get better while he's out. Next losers, wide receiver room. We just talked about it with the Spencer Rattler thing. We had an A.T. Perry drop, a Bub Means drop. We had a Michael Jacobson drop, a Juwan Johnson drop, a Kevin Austin Jr. drop. It was really rough out there for the wide receivers. Really, none of them were that consistent. Now, I will say A.T. Perry did good enough to probably make the roster. He had that big play downfield from Spencer Rattler. Equinemius St. Brown had a few nice plays. Also had a play where he could have had a touchdown, but he couldn't connect with Spencer Rattler. Bub Means made a few nice plays, but also the drops. The overall receiver room was horrid, but individually they were okay. Next winner, Blake Grupe. You want to know why? He kicked every field goal in this whole preseason except for one. He kicked all the kicks today because Charlie Smith is injured. I think we know who the winner of the kicking competition is, Blake Grupe. Next winner, Samson Nacua, who is also a loser. Samson Nacua almost had the longest touchdown of the whole preseason of 108 yards. Stepped out of bounds. What makes him a loser? Didn't score on the play, ran 4,000 yards for no reason, and got called slow in the family group chat. Both a winner and a loser. Now, someone else who did a lot of running like Samson Nacua, but didn't get any production out of it, Isaiah Foskey, our next loser. Dude must have played a total of 150 snaps in the whole preseason and did literally nothing. He is the equivalent of Trevor Penning on the defense. Isaiah Foskey, second round pick, cannot get a pressure in the fourth quarter of a preseason game. I would not be shocked if Isaiah Foskey gets cut. The dude has looked horrid. Next loser, Michael Jacobson, a guy who we had a lot of hopes for back in OTAs and minicamp. He looked good. Him and Holker were competing, but had a drop from Rattler today. Had 3 penalties. One of them prevented a touchdown from James Robinson, while the other 2 came back-to-back on a kickoff. He most certainly is not making the team. Next winner, Anthony Orji. Solidified his spot on the team, had 9 tackles. Dude just continues to be a baller. Top of solidifying a job on the team, he also solidified himself of having the best name on the team. And our final loser is me for forgetting to charge my camera. In the middle of the live stream, my camera dies. So we had to go to the Derek Carr quality camera on my laptop while the Spencer Rattler quality camera was charging. I'm certainly a loser on this list, but I'm also a winner because I got to watch Spencer Rattler play football. And finally, Trevor Penning is both a winner and a loser. He looked better, but at the same time had some pretty rough reps. He had an insane pancake block. That touchdown Rattler had to Equinemius St. Brown, he had a huge block on that play. While at the same time, he had some rough blocks on the jet sweep. He got beat pretty bad on some passing reps. It was up and down, but when it came to Dennis Allen and Trevor Penning, he said, I thought overall I know this. I thought he played better in last week's game after the first game. I thought he improved this week in practice, and I saw him do good things tonight too. I think there's some improvement being made. Whether that's true or not, the head coach saying he's making improvements is a win for Trevor Penning. Him saying that he's better this week than last week is a win. So Trevor Penning is a winner for Trevor Penning. Any other player who would have had the game he had would be a loser. And this is also why Trevor Penning is on the losers list. It was reported by John Hendricks before the game that the Saints might be looking at the tackle market with the roster cuts coming up in just a day or so. They're going to keep an eye out for who's going to be available when all these other teams are making roster cuts. And speaking of roster cuts, I have my 53-man roster prediction on the screen. Why don't we go over it? Quarterbacks, I got 3 of them. Rattler is the second string quarterback. Hayner is the third. Derek Carr is the starter. Running back room, Kamara, Jamal, Jordan Mims, Taysom Hill, Adam Prentice. Now some of you may be asking, where's Kendre Miller? I put him on injured reserve. I think that's what's going to happen to him. I think they put him on IR and he comes back at some point during the season. I don't think you cut anyone for Kendre Miller, and I don't think James Robinson or Kabaddi did enough to make the team. I know the Saints love Jordan Mims. I think Mims makes it. Taysom Hill is explanatory. Adam Prentice is a fullback. Wide receiver, this is where things get interesting. The first three were probably no surprise. Olave, Shaheed, Cedric Wilson. A.T. Perry was a huge question mark, but I think he did enough to make the team. Bob Means, I think, did good enough. He's a good blocker and can be available. I think he'll make the roster. Also, St. Brown, I didn't have him making the roster until today. He might have did enough. I do think this 6 wide receiver spot is a little bit flexible. Tight end and offensive line, there really is no surprises here. Defensive end, no surprises. Although it might be a surprise that Isaiah Foskey is on the roster. I think he makes it. I just don't know how much he plays. Defensive tackle, no surprises. Linebacker, no surprises. Cornerback, I wouldn't be shocked if Rico Payton or Gene Charles makes the roster. One of those two guys I think makes the roster. I think it's between those two. For my predictions, I went with Rico Payton. I think realistically though, Gene Charles is the way to go. Safety, no surprises. Special teams, groupie, Zach Wood, and I hope Laserbeam, our freaking punter, gets cut. Matt Hayball is who I have winning the punting job. But we'll find out what the Saints roster looks like in just a few days, with roster cuts literally a day or two away. Let me know your thoughts on the Saints preseason game and finale versus the Tennessee Titans. Subscribe to my channel, Cash Sports, for more daily info content. Have a good one. Peace.